Hello, and welcome to our third episode of SkoleAI Podcast. And in today's guest of the podcast is Emre, a founder of and CEO of EdGenie, which is a platform transforming students that prepare for the A-level exams and currently in economics exams and growing into the subjects ranges to math, psychology, business, and sciences. Welcome, Emre.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Then in today's podcast, I wanted to discuss with you everything about EdTech. So I want to potentially go a little bit more into your early career, then potentially talk about your experiences with EdGenie, how it started, and where's your vision, and how do you want to grow EdGenie to the future. And then also possibly talking about the EdTech, especially in the Middle East and GCC, and then potentially in UK and in the world, how is it impacting the education? So maybe to start off, I've done a little bit of research on you. So Emre, you graduated from LSE in finance and banking, and then you started your career as a compliance analyst in Aberdeen, if I'm saying correct. So my first question, and I'm curious about to know a little bit on what initially drew you to the finance and investment industry, and what did you find the most exciting or challenging out of these experiences?
Yeah, I mean, it all started, again, I was thinking about this in the car on the way here, or when I was thinking about where did this all begin? And it was when I was like 8 years old, where I remember going to the supermarket just down the road and picking up some sweets and chocolates and crisps and bringing them back home and then selling them to my family at a higher price. And I sat there and thought, oh, that's the first concept of like demand and supply, where obviously I didn't know what demand and supply was at the time, but that's where it all kind of began, where I started being interested in, oh, is that how people go and buy things and then sell them for higher prices and so forth. And very quickly you realize that your family's just buying stuff from you just because they have to. It all started from there really. And again, my whole family's kind of background is entrepreneurship. So It all started when my granddad was moving from village to village in Turkey, then making their way back to London, and they grew their company. And again, it's always been kind of part of my DNA. So finance was a niche that I really wanted to explore.
Definitely. And in the early career, what are some of the challenges that you have potentially faced, and how did you overcome them? Because usually, I mean, knowing from my experience as well, when you jump from the education into the real life business, then you have a lot of pressure because you have to kind of perform and you still learn on how to apply the knowledge you have learned into the real life. Some things work, something doesn't. So what are the challenges that you still remember from these experiences? How did you manage to overcome them?
Yeah, I think I remember when I worked in the city of London for an asset management company, and they're a huge company. They had about 3,000 employees, and my only worry wasn't like the knowledge or any of that. It's how do I communicate? How do I present myself? Am I saying the right things? Should I come an hour early? Should I leave an hour late? It's these kind of corporate elements where the people were scaring me with before I joined. So I think that part was the scariest and the most difficult to overcome, because when you're 18, 19, 20, 21, no one really teaches you that, especially 15, 20 years ago. So that's the part where you have to learn by yourself. You got to apply it, and you overcome it.
Right, definitely. And then there was a shift. There was from finance, then education. Can you talk about maybe about this experience?
When I was at university, I met one of my friends, and I noticed that he was doing some tutoring for some extra cash to finance his university, essentially. And then obviously, being a university student, you're very knowledgeable on finance, economics, maths, business, etc. And so I just started tutoring myself at university, and then essentially continued that during my kind of finance career, working in investment management as well.
Right. So what skills possibly, because then how long did you work in the in banking
I
and
think it was about 4 years or so, 4 or 5 years.
right. So then what would you say are the skills that you possibly or potentially learned that you could have used when it comes to tutoring?
From the finance
Yeah,
industry.
yeah.
So the ability to communicate was so key, because if I had joined, let's say, a normal job where I wasn't kind of client facing, or even in the business facing senior leaders, CEOs, directors, managers every day,
Right.
every second of every day, then you wouldn't have the ability to then communicate to the students or the
Right.
parents. And how do you ensure that you're explaining things in a way that is understandable to them?
Right.
Because as you know, we've got like office politics and
Yeah.
in the corporate world, so different areas, like the back office has a different kind of political system to the front office, to salespeople. So we had to manage that, and that was extremely transferable
Yeah.
to tutoring.
Yeah, definitely. And I can see that experiences that, especially when, for instance, different fields, as you said, it's a different communication. For instance, I can give the best example from my experiences when it comes to discussing technology with developers. So you have one department that talks about research that they found, they do field research, and then they talk about like, oh, could be well developed, this idea should be developed and everything. And then how to communicate that to developers in order to understand exactly what is your vision and then how you can execute this vision. So I think, yeah, exactly. The communication is one of the most important in that area on how to truly potentially communicate your visions and ideas to other people so they can also understand and be on the same page with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you think about in a corporate versus a student, think of a corporate as you've got kind of analysts, senior analysts, middle management, senior management, CEO, etc. Then in students, you've got different types of students.
Yeah.
So you've got A star, A, B, C, D, E, F, like students that might be falling behind significantly. The way you communicate will always be different to each and every single one of them.
Right, definitely. So then what really sparked your decision to go more into the education? Is there any motivation that you possibly had a specific experience where you were like, oh, I want to help people, I want to help students?
I think it came from the last year or so, where when I was on my just desk, lovely team, lovely company, had nothing to do with the work that I was doing, but I was helping students go from D's to A stars within a few months, and I thought, oh wow, and then they would really appreciate that, and we would always, it was more of a relationship building exercise across the year or across the few months that I was with them. And then a lot of my students started to get really high grades, where obviously I had the experience of 3-4 years of tutoring now. And my client base was just exceeding. I had a wait list, and I was saying no to major jobs. And I'd always get offers from like Singapore, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, America. And I would always go, sorry, I can't, I'm got a full-time job. And I just thought, I sat there and I thought to myself, what am I doing? I need to pursue something in my kind of from what I want to do, rather than going through the kind of a career ladder. Let me try.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, very quickly, the demand stayed for the next few years, and it just grew and grew, and the student grades grew and grew and got better, and yeah.
And so then you potentially also faced, because I can imagine there could be some challenges, especially for teachers. When I spoke with a lot of different teachers who wants to help certain students to achieve their grades that they desire, it's sometimes very difficult for teachers to potentially help them because there could be a reason of being overwhelmed with a lot of potentially administrative tasks, but also the question is how I can help the student in a way. So I want to pretty much ask you the question on how did you manage to understand the students and how to exactly help them? Because as you said, the students are different, and but possibly you have to make different approaches in a way to help them understand there's some some students that can get it faster, some students that still need a bit more time and effort to kind of work on around this. So how did you manage this?
Yeah, it's a really good question actually, and it's the answer is the same today as it was then as well. It's always outcome orientated. So whenever I look at a student, whether they're on an A star, A, or just falling behind significantly, you go, what do they need to do to go and maximize their marks in that exam? They're all sitting the same paper essentially. They're all doing the same thing. The outcome is the same. We all want that A star, right? We all want that top grade, and we want to work towards that. The problem is, what pathways, how do we do that? And so the way I always do it is I reverse engineer it. So if a student comes to me 3 months before the exam and say they're on a B, which most students are on Bs, right? And you'll see exactly what they've done in terms of, you'll notice a B grade student would predominantly have been doing, and a C grade student would predominantly be doing content and just rote learning. They can't memorize these definitions or these diagrams, or they always struggle to do that. I ask one question, and it's always, how much practice have you done? How much have you replicated the exam? How much have you done this? How much of this have you done in school? And the answer is always not much. And so you probably remember from your schooling days, I do as well. As soon as you sit there and do some question practice, you're faced with reality.
Yeah.
And then you can put solutions in place then. And so for every student, we always start at the outcome, the exam, and then we go, right, these are the major topic areas. These are the questions that you need to practice towards that exam. And it's as soon as you reverse engineer something, you can get to the solution a lot quicker.
Right. Awesome. So then how did your possibly experience within finance or skills that you learned in finance, did you translate it into education?
It comes to maybe the technical side. So the real world application, that is key. So the technical and the real world application, how is that knowledge actually applied in the real world? So when you're sitting there and you're reading an investment report on Lululemon or a Nike or a Blockbuster or a Netflix, Blockbuster obviously doesn't exist anymore, but in America it does a little bit. But when you're reading them, you're seeing, these are the PE ratios, or these are the profit levels, and demand's gone down in China over this period, the Eurozone crisis, and so forth. You're like, this is literally what I've just been doing for the last 5 years. And so real world application is the I would say the single most important part of anyone's journey in education, for sure.
Definitely. Then there was this moment where your vision kind of came up with EdGenie.
Yep.
So I want to possibly ask maybe the first question on how did it come up? Like, did you just suddenly realize that, there could be something done more to help more students? Like, how did the vision of EdGenie generally start?
Yeah, I always kick myself for this because the idea came to me in 2013.
Right.
So what's that? 12 years ago now. So when I'm sitting there and I'm tutoring and I'm doing like 18-hour days, 16-hour days, and I'm sitting there going, why am I doing this? Like, surely there's a better way of one-to-one tutoring. And again, I really wanted to help these students, but obviously me working less was not an option.
Yeah.
So what's the most efficient and effective way to scale education? And so I thought, wouldn't it be great if there was a website where students can go on and I can just teach many students at the same time, but still give that personalized support. And then obviously I was in a full-time job then. Yeah. And so it got left at the idea stage. And then fast forward, 6 years? When I sat there and I thought, we need to stop tutoring here, because I'm doing 18-hour days, 6 months out of the year. And the grades are great. I need to apply, instead of 25 students a year, how do we apply this to 1,000 students a year? And I think around 2020 is when I thought, let's go and action this. And it began.
What was it maybe like scary? Because talking from my experience, especially when I started, or I made this decision, like, okay, I'm going to try something that is not going to guarantee me the success, but If I don't try it, then I'll hate myself for it. So was there like this kind of maybe like a small little voice or like you were afraid that, oh, I'm gonna fail this? What was going on with your thoughts at that time when you were making that decision to start EdGenie?
Yeah. Was I scared? The answer is no, but I had doubts about my ability,
Right.
technical ability. So I'm a non-tech founder, which I'm sure you know what that means. It means I don't know too much about coding. I'm not that much of a tech whiz, which I've learned for the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years, which is great. But at the time I was thinking, surely something that takes me 5 hours to do, or 5 days to do, or 5 weeks to do, it will take someone like you 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You have the solution. I don't. So that was the part where I had major doubts to overcome. Well, I still do. We still we learn every day, right? You find solutions, and in a world of AI, we're finding new solutions every single day. So that was one of the points where I had those doubts.
Right. Awesome. Definitely. So now I want to go back a little bit on the student side. So what exactly what were the first patterns or you observed when it comes to students that struggles, and what patterns stood out to you the most that possibly you were like, okay, I know how I can create one platform that will solve this specific problem for students and then help them to achieve the grades. So what would you say on this?
I would say it's in terms of the problems that the students face. Is that what you mean? Yeah. It's usually the same 2-3 things. It's they don't take it seriously early enough.
Yeah.
So like A levels, obviously we focus on A levels at the moment, and it's a 2-year course. It's almost as long as some degrees are 2 years long, right? And they don't put enough effort, or they don't realize early enough how crucial things like exam technique are, how understanding the content through real world application is, reading the news or applying their knowledge. This goes across all subjects, whether it's psychology, maths, biology. How does this operate in the real world?
Yeah.
They don't see that until maybe this week before the exams, or they might not see it until 6 months before, and when they hear someone suggest it. So that's where I normally see the students kind of have that gap. And that's more about empowerment, right? So making sure that they take it, they do the things every week that will kind of carry them through the A levels. Same thing with university, right. Where you know how you have the exams at the end of the semester, and we sit there and we do nothing for maybe the last week, and then we push. You can't do that with A levels. Yeah. It doesn't work, or IB, or you got to work throughout the 2 years. And the other thing is that practice, the feedback.
Yeah.
They don't, unfortunately, the way the schooling system operates, you've got usually 1 or 2 teachers catering for 30, 40, 50 students. And how do you mark all their work effectively? How can you give them the detailed feedback that they need, or the feed forward, like in terms of what they should be doing next time? Yeah. It's an impossible task, essentially, in school. So that's where I saw the kind of the main issues. And so, yeah, just incorporating that and making sure they've got the support is important.
So then how did you prioritize these challenges, and how did you use EdGenie to solve these challenges?
So EdGenie began, 5 years ago, the week before COVID began, we launched it as live classes, where every week we had live sessions on different topics. And then we got our sign-ups. We're like, oh, wow, this is fantastic. Like, we're converting like crazy in 1 week. And then COVID hit, exams got cancelled. And so then demand just obviously naturally just dropped. There's no more exams. And that was the case pretty much for 2 years?
Right.
In the UK anyway. I know it wasn't the case across the rest of the world, but yeah, it started off that way. And then I very quickly changed it. Within about 3-4 months, we pivoted. Yeah. And I turned it into an on-demand platform where it's an all-in-one solution, where I said, right, content isn't the problem. Content is the bit where You can get that from the internet, YouTube, whatever you want. Now we have ChatGPT a lot of the time. And you have the ability to create a Netflix-style on-demand platform where they can go in whenever they want to go and review a content that they've done in school.
Right.
And so I thought that should be the on-demand aspect. And then I said, right, what do they need support with? They need support with two things: exam technique and feedback. And so we introduced 4 live classes a week, which purely focus on reviews and exam technique. And then we have feedback solution where students can hand in their work and they can just submit their work, and it gets marked in a very kind of credible manner, which shows them what they should be doing kind of moving forward. Of course, it's very kind of personalized in that sense. And the other thing was, I remember this as a student, when it's 10 o'clock at night and I'm revising, I've got no one to ask questions to.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest factors where I can't wait for my teacher on Thursday to ask this question to, or I'll ask them on Teams, or obviously we never had Teams back then. Or let me wait for my tutor to come on Saturday at 4 p.m. where I can pay maybe $100 or $50 or £50 to get an answer. And so we introduced obviously an AI chat network or a super tutor that will answer any student's questions within 5 seconds. So, and I think all 3 of those, or all 4 of those elements combined, make a really powerful support mechanism for the students.
Yeah, I guess that's awesome, because as you said, the kind of Netflix platform where you can choose the videos on and then learn from it, because itself, I think the videos also gives a lot of knowledge and preparation for this. And I think you said feedback is personally, out of my life, I think feedback is one of the most important.
Yeah.
And you can actually the most impactful, and you can actually learn a lot from it. And this is where feedback that is super personalized, that is focused for the specific student. And as you said, the feedback in schools, it's difficult to kind of pinpoint the focuses, because there's so many students out there that the feedback would be different when it comes to your platform, for instance.
Yeah. So just to give you an idea of how long it takes us about an hour per student piece of work.
Yeah.
So we don't sit there and go, how quickly can we do this? It's more like, right, what's the process of giving them the most effective feedback or feed forward? And that if that takes an hour and a half, 2 hours, so be it. Because that interaction with the student will allow them to be empowered to then do right next time.
Yeah.
And so over the year, we see with our students that enroll right at the beginning, you see that the grades creep up.
Yeah.
So and shows the power of, as you said, power of feedback. It shows the power of having that conversation with them as well.
Yeah. And that's awesome that you exactly as you said, is like you're more focusing on quality rather than the time. So time restrictions, you really care about delivering this quality and focusing on the delivering the results for the students.
Yeah.
So the students has this expectation, and you actually achieve it. You can maybe talk about your achievements of how students have received A stars from the exams and everything.
Yeah. So about 2.5 years ago, when the exams finally came back after EdGenie, when we switched the kind of platform from live classes to this kind of mechanism that we have today, it's kind of been getting better every year in terms of the results, because we have to leave it up to the students to do well. Like really and truly, they're the ones putting pen to paper.
Yeah.
So I always say this when students ask me, do you have any model answers? And I always say yes, but look, you're not going to write like that. Like you're a different personality to Greg, who wrote this. You, Sandra, you can, like, the way you write is different.
Yeah.
And so you want to build it in a way that is replicatable for you.
Yeah.
And so grades. Last year we had a 64% kind of AA star rate, like close to 70, I think. Like in the end, we're still hearing from students that's completed or was with EdGenie last year, and they're like, they send me an email saying, Emre, I just saw you on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, and I just wanted to let you know that I got an A or an A star. And and of course, like we can't hear from everybody because it's results day. They want to go on holiday. They want to go to university. So yeah, it's and hopefully, fingers crossed, this year's exams as well. I'm very hopeful. They'll smash it out of the park as well.
Yeah. So maybe I have a question on because I'm sure if when you started, you wanted to ask a lot of students on their preparation of exams, how they prepare, because that's potentially helped you to structure the business model, how you or structure the solution and the business model somewhere. So what would be the biggest misconceptions that students have about exam preparation from what you know?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say it's the levels at which you need to actually do them. The quantity, the quality, and the variety. I always look at the QQV. So quality is number one, right? So when you get, in terms of an exam, say you've got, I know with different A levels or GCSEs, you've got numerous papers. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 4, sometimes there's coursework. There's whole elements with IB, you've got 6, 7 subjects. And so there's a lot of exams or submissions that you need to make across a very small time period. And remember, this is the first time you're pretty much doing this at that scale in that short time period. And the one misconception is we don't sit there and do enough, first of all, early enough. So that's the quantity element. The second thing is when you're practicing a question or practicing exam prep, you don't give those questions or those papers the respect they actually deserve. So what I mean by that is when a student sees a question, so I'll use economics, there's a 25 marker. Yeah. So in their mind, they're thinking, this shouldn't take me more than 30 minutes, 40 minutes to write out. And then say they're writing out and they're struggling with it, or they just don't know this topic, they'll hand it in or not even hand it in. They will just take that and without resolving it properly, put it to one side, right, and just not revisit it again. Yeah. So they won't ask the right questions on how do I improve this. A lot of students now do, obviously. I see it on a daily basis, but they'll just put it to the back of their mind and go, this is too hard for me. And they won't touch it because it's the hard thing to do. Yeah. And so in economics, famously, we have like labor markets, which is quite difficult, but they won't attack that question. Yeah. And the other thing I would say is variety. So a lot of students just focus purely on past papers. Okay, and the chances of them repeating the questions from the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, fine, you practice them as well, of course. But the chances are they might ask different topics, they might ask the same question in a different way. Yeah. So what you want to do is you want to change the way, or you want to practice a slightly different way of asking that question. Because again, I remember when I did my A levels or GCSE, they're like, wait, hold on, I've practiced, I'm prepped for this topic. Yeah. How on earth am I not understanding what they're asking me? And so they just, and I go back to, they don't give the respect to those questions. Right. And that's something that I just want to change because it's, should it take you 3 hours? Yeah, do it. Ask the questions, get the feedback, because it's quality is what's really important there. Right. Yeah.
So you mentioned about also students not really going for challenging questions. Why do you think so that students wouldn't go for the most challenging question out there?
It's not even just a challenging question. It's more they might not do the question practice anyway at all. Okay. And so they stay, and I get it as well because it's more of it's a confidence thing, right? Yeah. And where they're focusing on maybe flashcards or making notes and I'll give you an example. 2 days ago, 3 days ago, there was a student that said, Emre, should I join your revision course because I haven't finished content yet? And I said, the exam's next week. I go, when are you going to do this practice? Yeah. Now do it with us. There's all these other students in the same position as you. Let's build that confidence together. I know it's scary, and I know it's very difficult to kind of overcome it. It's like climbing the Himalayas or Mount Everest, right? Who does that? No one. Yeah. Because it's hard. So you wouldn't sit there but you got to prep for it, train for it, and then you start with a smaller peak, and then you build. And that's what we need to do with these with students, because you want to build their confidence up across a period of time. And that's the misconception normally is they don't do enough.
Right. So then you kind of, with your platform, you are bringing this new mindset to the students. So are there any other mindsets that you're trying to inbuild within EdGenie for students in order to help them prepare for the exams better?
Yeah, so empowerment's a big one. So accountability and empowerment. Like I said earlier, they're the ones putting the pen to paper, or if they're typing, they're the ones doing it.
Yeah.
And so we can always say, my teacher's not doing this, or I don't have the right resources or whatever. But at the end of the day, it comes down to students, and they're the ones that have to put that effort in, and they have to make sure every other day, they're implementing those strategies or tactics that might seem hard now, but if they like I always say, trust me, if you do it more kind of frequent enough, consistent enough, the right things, that is. So not just pure flashcards, but say you're sitting there and learning exam technique and then applying it, and you do that frequent enough, often enough, you'll start to find it out. You'll start putting different points, different questions together, and you'll make the links. Yeah. And that's how our brain works, right? And so I just want students to believe in themselves and to build that confidence. And the way to do that is empowering them. And I always say to them, I was like, look, every single one of you can get an A star. Yeah. Every single one. Like, it's just, you got to change your mainframe. Yeah. And that's the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can tell as well from my experiences as a student, and then maybe as well, because what you're saying as well is like an advice for life, pretty much. Because you can achieve anything if you put kind of your mind into it, your focus into it, and you really try hard for it for a long enough time. You can succeed at it. So as you said, practicing these questions earlier on, working on them, that kind of helps them to be confident, because it's a little bit like smaller wins. So once you answered correctly these questions, or once you practice and you see that more of the different questions, because you said different structures of the questions usually happen in the exam. So that kind of builds up the confidence, because you feel already comfortable with this question. You already solved this question. You already solved the other question. And then you're gaining this confidence because those small wins. And one small, if you accumulate all of those small wins, then you have the big win at the end as a big effect. So that is very interesting to see. I would love to have this exactly when I was studying for my exams. I was a bit different in that time. I was struggling trying to remember all the stuff. So I never necessarily thought about the questions, or I usually asked myself the questions a lot at different questions that would be on exams. So a little bit of like distracted. Have you ever faced or your students, did you see if they're facing potentially similar issues where they're overthinking a little bit on the exams? Because I know from my experiences when I was in school and writing exams, I was overthinking the questions that was asked to me, where my answer would be completely somewhere else than would be on the paper requested from me. So
and I go back to my kind of A-level GCSE days, where I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know how to answer this question. But then looking back a long time later, like 15, 20 years later, I sit there and I go, you know what? I didn't even try and do question practice to make myself feel better. And it's a prime example is students maybe 6 months ago before their exams, right? They sit there and I'm running out of time in my exam. I can't finish off the questions, and it's just not clicking. I'm running out of time, and I'm losing 20%, 25% before I've even had it marked. And then I asked them, so how many of these have you done? And they go, this was my first one. I go, well, obviously you're gonna run out of time because you've never done this before. You've never sat there and had a 2, 4, 5, 6, 12, 15, 25 marker. I've just made those numbers up, but you've never had those numbers or those questions. You haven't faced them in a row before in that timed environment. So now you know what your baseline is, and guess what you have to do now?
Yeah.
You've done the quality, now you do the quantity.
Yeah.
And so the more you do something, the power of learning accumulation, right?
Yeah.
The more you do something, the better you get at it, and the quicker you do.
Yeah.
So when you started coding,
Yeah.
how great were you in the first kind of few weeks?
Well,
Yeah.
from my experiences, so I have another. I'm also not a coder.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
From this
Sorry,
side.
apologies.
I have my co-founder that is also more from the tech side. But yeah, I mean in general, you as you said, like if you start the first time, of course you're gonna fail, but you have to
Yeah.
be comfortable to learn out to get something out of the kind of failing to understand what can you do better.
Yeah.
So that's something that I always had the mindset on.
Yeah. And you just gotta do it over and over again. Practice makes perfect, right?
Try again until you win.
Hey, there you go. Exactly.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit more about the future of EdGenie. You said or you're planning to expand the subjects to not only economics but also business, sciences, psychology. So when you think about EdGenie's future, bigger mission, bigger vision, what do you hope to achieve?
The one hope I want to achieve is making sure students, teachers or educators in general, or students, obviously they're the ones that we always want to help. I want them to understand that they can achieve anything.
Right.
And so I don't want them to fall prey to their environment, maybe, where they might be receiving different noises to suggest that they can't do something.
Yeah.
And I just want them to, in the long run, because 16, 17, 18, 15, 14-year-olds today are so clever and so smart, and usually they fall prey to their environment. And we want to alleviate those barriers. And giving them the opportunity, let's say with EdGenie, there was a student 2 years ago, I always remember Hannah. She wrote a message like weeks after the exams finished, and she goes, "Oh, Emre, I just wanted to let you know, look, I was your 19th follower on TikTok." And I don't know why she remembered that. And just to let you know, I've got dyslexia and so forth, and I just went from a D to an A.
Yeah.
And just want to say thank you. Now, if we left her to the system, essentially, or say she didn't get that support, then that D could have been the real reality.
Yeah.
And so her then aspirations potentially would have been cut short.
Yeah.
Because of the way the progressive system works at the moment, right? From school to university to having a career. So we want to make sure that every student has the support they need outside and inside of the classroom to achieve anything that they want.
That's great, because again that kind of puts them that they know that they are able to achieve way more than what they think they can.
Yeah.
And that's, I talk as well with so many different friends who they don't really know themselves that much, because when I look at them, especially in certain scenarios when they're focused on specific tasks, they're absolutely like super good at a specific task, and then I see the vision that they can achieve, like go different places, but the confidence is not there, and I see with this is that with EdGenie you're building that confidence for the bigger vision and the career in that perspective. So my question would be as well, potentially when it comes to EdGenie evolving, what do you plan to achieve with the next 3 to 5 years? Are there any exciting updates do you want to bring to EdGenie? Anything?
Yeah, so we want to obviously expand the subject range, which we're actively doing right now. So we're launching maths, psychology, and business for sure by September. And then we'll look obviously the sciences as well. And the way we want to do this is we're entering schools at the moment. So our kind of schools approach, making sure teachers, they do wonderful work in the classroom, outside of the classroom. We want to just make sure that they're supported, and their students are supported as much as possible, so they can continue focusing on the wonderful work that they do. So that's our kind of big shift, because predominantly we've been relatively kind of just purely to the student, and so we want to make sure that EdGenie is we'd love to see EdGenie across a lot of schools, and we've started that already, so that progress already. Number 2, obviously the elephant in the room is AI. Yeah. We have a bit of AI, and we've got systems in place now, which were relatively kind of manual before, and now we're building those systems. And post exams, we're gonna go a bit gung ho on those systems. And AI, we're looking at how we can develop develop EdGenie with AI, whether it's through feedback or whether it's through the learning elements. But the one thing that I will always keep true is we don't want AI to take over the actual education element itself.
Right.
And the reason why I say that is because there's a lot of noise in the AI space. So there's a lot of creators, there's a lot of educators, there's a lot of noise. And so when whether you're a 10-year-old student or an 18-year-old or a 21-year-old university student, there's so much noise coming from different AI speak and do this, do that, make sure you use this structure. We want to eliminate all of that. And that's where the human touch comes in. So
Right.
we will always be student first, and we'll drive it with our educators. And the AI will be that supporting element.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and that actually brings a little bit to the next topic that I wanted to talk about, which is the education space, and the AI space. So right now, what we see, actually, potentially not long ago, we see a huge kind of shift towards technology, especially in education, because we know that schools were usually the last ones to adopt the newest technologies that are out there. But I think the experience of COVID-19 brought this to a level where schools realized that, okay, technology is good. What kind of technology will improve the quality of our students? And AI, again, as you said, there's so many tools, so many ways of information about AI, which one is true, which one isn't.
Yeah.
So what do you think exactly about AI in education?
I think we can't ignore it. I'm sure you've heard that answer 1,000 times before. You can't ignore it, and we should embrace it.
Yeah.
It's a case in point, right? It makes everyone's lives better, and
Right.
we can say what we want, and we might lose jobs or we might create new jobs.
Yeah.
We've gone through this process a million times. This time it's just AI. We've gone through .com bubbles. Oh, the internet's going to take away all the jobs. Well, actually, it empowered how many developing countries have now reduced their poverty levels because of the internet, especially since the 90s. And I think AI at the moment, it's still finding its place.
Right.
In terms of, I think, the actual application of it in education. Because we will always go back to emotion.
Yeah.
We'll always go back to that. AI doesn't give you confidence.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, right? It can tell you certain things and it can guide you, of course, but we're humans, and it will never. Yes, you can create AI generated humans. I agree, but we'll know who that is. We'll know that, and so the perfect example is, when you're on ChatGPT or something, you say sound more human, sound more natural. There you go. We're never going to escape from that. So I think in education we have to embrace it. And if it's a case where it makes our lesson deliverability better, if it's more efficient, more productive, because they're the tools that we're seeing right now, right?
Yeah.
The productivity tools in education that we're seeing, it's the outcome elements that are currently missing. And so whether it's feedback or the education elements in terms of the teaching, it's not there yet. And so I'm sure even those that are leading the AI race don't know.
Yeah.
Right. So
we're all trying to figure out.
Exactly. Yeah. And now you're seeing these AI companies that were in existence, that came, AI wrappers or AI technologies that came up a year ago, 2 years ago. They're going bust. They're closing down because they couldn't gain the traction. Why? Because the use case wasn't monetizable. Because so it just depends on how we would see it fit.
Yeah, definitely. And now, when it comes to potentially what you said is that the education system can't really ignore AI, and you also said the example of internet that there are arguments that yeah, AI could replace all the jobs, but then if we look at the case of internet, it was similar situation, as you said. So I want to know your perspective possibly on AI. What do you think students should learn about AI right now in schools, or how they should approach learning AI?
Yeah, so that's one of my regrets is not being tech focused
Yeah.
maybe 10, 15 years ago. And so understanding, not doing the code itself, but understanding how things happen
Yeah.
in that AI world, I think is crucial. Whether it's blockchain, AI, or even how kind of the marketing works behind a website, those elements,
Yeah.
and how can we use AI to improve education? How does it work? So I think the how is really important to know, especially for students from a very young age.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we should be making mandatory, especially I would say now, yesterday.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because the how is very important, but sometimes even like if we go deep inside, then there are some cases where we still don't understand some cases on how, for instance, AI works. Like I can give an example when they were shutting down, I think, GPT 3.5 or something, and then suddenly it reactivated itself by its own. I mean, after a very long time, they figured out that they had a specific code that that GPT-3 kind of built itself. But in general, it took us a while to figure it out. This thing. So that's why understanding exactly how everything works, then I think it's important, because that will kind of create as well some innovation, more ideas around this area. So I want to also ask about possibly your experiences when approaching schools and discussing with different schools, knowing that schools are a little bit, it takes some time a little bit to get new tech into the schools. What would you say is, out of your experiences, you found, what are some of the school's misconceptions about EdTech, and what's kind of limiting them to get the new technology in, or try new technology in?
Yeah, they see it as a replacement,
Right.
rather than a kind of supportive element to their work. Like I said, you can't replace emotion. You can't replace a human, right? Yeah. So no one should try and do that in the most crucial roles, essentially. And the misconception is, is EdTech AI going to replace my job or my role or this department, or the teaching elements? Is it gonna, do I need to be here? And it in different scopes, the application of it is the important part, right? Not the fact that the technology exists.
Yeah.
Is how do we utilize it because say a teacher or a department or a school do wonderful work, right? The students, say you see them for 4 hours a week for one subject. That is such little time to do marking, to do teaching the concepts, and to run through exam technique, practice. 4 hours is not enough, or even 8 hours. And so you want to empower yourself or your students to make sure that they're getting all the support outside of the classroom as well. And I think, utilizing AI is or EdTech in general is a really good way to kind of increase your grades or improve the support that your students get.
Yeah, definitely. And with AI, so you of course started to integrate with AI into your platform.
Yeah.
So what are some of the possibilities AI can kind of generate or generate in within your platform and in the future?
Yeah, so agentic AI, where the personal experience of a student whilst they're learning is, I think, could be completely revolutionized. Where say a student's writing a sentence, and just from that one sentence, it can go down a different pathway, learning pathway, compared to if they wrote a separate sentence. And that will be, I think that's where I think kind of maybe EdTech will go, if I'm honest. And by implementing that, the students, it's a more efficient way. And it's important to make sure that you're still maintaining the human element there.
Yeah.
And because if you're not, then it just becomes an AI teaching you things, and you're learning it in one way, which is obviously not the way we learn, right? Some of us are visual learners, some of us are written. You can solve for that, of course, using AI, but you need that human element in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes even, well, depends on what AI, but sometimes AI is not accurate.
Yes.
So you might be learning not real things.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And you're at the mercy of, did I pick ChatGPT 4 or ChatGPT 3.5 or 03? And you're like, why are they all giving me different answers? And so you're at the mercy of one company, which is crazy to think. And that's one thing I always think of as well is what's going to happen to inequality in the world?
Yeah.
Because if 1, 2, 3, 4 companies are controlling information and the information flow, and they're gatekeeping it, what's going to then happen to the rest of us that don't know how to do that or how to build that, or if they're not sharing it, then there's going to be huge problems coming our way.
Yeah, definitely. So maybe I have 2 last questions to ask you, and this would be more of an advice from entrepreneurs. Talking from my journey as an entrepreneur, you face a lot of challenges along the way.
Yeah.
And when you were building EdGenie, what are some of the unexpected biggest challenges that you faced, and what lessons or what learnings did you gain from it that you can share to other fellow EdTech founders?
Yeah. So one thing is you will be at the mercy of external factors.
Yeah.
How do you pivot and how do you manage that is key to your kind of mental health and and your success, actually. Because a lot of people, if you think about it, how many people, 90% of businesses fail within the first 5 years.
Yeah.
If you give up, then you'll never know what could have been. So like I said, I was sitting there thinking about this in 2013, and I kicked myself for it because it was I deliberated on it for 7 years, 8 years. So external factors are one element. And the other thing is make sure that you know you're learning every single day.
Yeah.
If you're not, and you're pretending that you do know, we should do this, and this is how you should present our design of the website. Design of the website is the most important thing, and we need to make sure that we have a really good domain name and title. And if you're focusing on the things that don't matter, really and truly, then your company essentially won't succeed.
Yeah.
So you want to focus on, and I'm not saying EdGenie is successful by any stretch of the, we're learning every day, so we're growing. And so making sure that you're focusing on substance rather than the things that business cards or things that don't really matter.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. And the third thing is hire well and hire at the right time, because you'll be at the mercy of your growth.
Yeah.
And so if you don't hire well at the right time, that could easily delay your progress for 5 months, a year, 2 years. And so that's crucial. So you can make some strong strides if you have a great partner or a great team behind you. And the final one I would say is just embrace technology.
Yeah.
I think if you don't embrace technology, then again you'll fall to the mercy of someone that knows and has implemented that technology.
Yeah, definitely. All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Emre, for this podcast, and thank you so much.
No, thank you very much. No, really appreciate you having me. Like I said, I was filming earlier today, and it's a great conversation to be had with you as well. So yeah, thank you very much.
Awesome. Hope to see you very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Awesome.